Welcome to my tutorial where I'll be describing the process for transferring a Rhino model to Unreal Engine for architectural visualization. Now during this video tutorial I'm not going to go into details with the process and explain exactly why I do the specific things. So instead, if you're interested in knowing details, please refer to my written tutorial linked in the description below. Alright, so I've prepared this example of not exactly world peace architecture, but I made it in a few minutes, so I'll have to do for this tutorial. So the first thing we want to do is to explode all of our model in order to be able to select both exterior walls and interior walls and assign them to our materials. And then we're going to apply some placeholder materials that we'll be able to use in Unreal Engine. And yeah, for this tutorial we're simply going to map it out roughly. We could go into details with windows and with panels and doors and so on, but we won't for now. So in order to apply a material for an element, you start with going into rendered mode so you can actually see your colors, and then you basically just give it a name, let's say exterior wall, and give it a color, and you should immediately see that it changes color. And basically you're going to do the same for all individual elements. Say the roof, let's make it green, and yeah, just simply do it for all of your elements. Alright, so once you've applied materials to your surfaces, we'll go right ahead with exporting our model. So basically start with selecting all of your model, Control A, or just, I don't know, say pick everything. Go to File, Export Selected, and in the file format you're going to select OBJ and just give it a name, Rhino to Unreal. Press enter to initiate the export, and in the OBJ export dialog make sure that you have polygon mesh selected. Just leave this one be, and on the export Rhino object names make sure that you have as OBJ groups used for export for 3D Studio Max selected. Just leave this one be, and make sure that you have export mesh texture coordinates, export mesh vertex normals, and export material definition selected. Afterwards just continue and press OK. And now this is the polygon mesh options. For this example we're just going to slide it all the way to the left, since our model mainly consists of flat surfaces and edges. We don't need the extra triangulations for the mesh, but if you had been making something with curves such as I don't know, something like Frank Gehry's architecture or Zaha Hadid, you might want to have more polygons for your curvatures, but in this case just proceed and click OK. Alright, so now before we begin importing our Rhino model, we want to set up our Unreal project and scene first. So start up your Unreal project browser and go to new project, and make sure you select a first person blueprint template. Then you want to make sure you're starting with starter content, and finally give your project a name. Once you have your editor up and running, you want to clear out the existing building blocks, since we're not going to need that. So in your world outliner, select from Arena Geometry and hold Shift and then click on Editor Cube, and then you can either press delete or just edit and select delete. Alright. So then we want to add some terrain. So go to the landscape tab or press Shift 3. Here we want to make sure that it's set somewhat around the lower edge of the pre-existing volumes. And if you haven't already, go to starter content, materials, find a material called M ground grass and simply put it into the material slot. Then we want to adjust the section size to 15 times 15 quads and then simply click create. Alright, then you might also want to delete your template label name. And anyway, if you click play now, you will see that your character is holding a sci-fi gun in his arms, which isn't really suitable for an architectural walkthrough. So in order to remove that gun, you will navigate to the first person character blueprint, which is located in content, first person BP and blueprints. Then you double click on it, and the first thing you will be presented to is a node graph called the event graph. And in here, the only thing you want to keep are the following classes, groups. So basically, you want to delete the spawn projectile group and and the motion controller for virtual reality, and compile. Then move on to the construction script, where you have the gun, which will be attached to the mesh, which you also want to delete. Click compile. And finally, move on to the viewport, where you can actually see your character. What you want to keep is the first person camera, and of course the capsule components that controls your character. So basically select from mesh to P down to virtual reality marker and press delete. Now if you compile, you should be good to go. Save your asset and go back. Now if you click play again, you'll see we've removed the arms and the weapon, but we still have that red crosshair in the middle, which can be removed by double clicking on the first person game mode. And once you've opened up, find the one called hot class and set it to none. Then click compile, and if you try to start your play your level now, you should see you're free of all obtrusive elements, and you're now ready to put in your Rhino model. Now for importing your Rhino model, simply open up the folder you exported your OBJ file to, and then drag and drop it into your content browser. Then you should be able to see some import options, at which you're only going to set the import uniform scale to 100, since I presume you're scaling from centimeters to meters. And then click import. Don't worry about this for now, it's fine. And you should see that the materials we defined in Rhino will begin to be compiled as placeholder materials, since they're quite basic, only colors for now. So if you drag and drop the mesh you just got from your importing, you should see your model with the placeholder materials that you had from Rhino. And the first thing we're going to do is basically just begin to apply materials to the different elements. So go to starter contents, materials, and start finding some materials that you like. For instance, let's say I'll choose some clay brick for my exterior walls. Perhaps I want some rock sandstone for the roof. Not exactly pretty, but it works. Some dark wood for outside porch, and for our interior walls, let's choose some light wood. And finally, for our inside, let's choose some concrete tiles. Alright, so there we have it. Alright, then you want to remove your collision boundaries for your object, as you otherwise can't move into it and see it from the inside. So what you're going to do is you're going to double click on your static mesh that you imported, and for your model you're going to go to collision in the editor and click remove collision and click save. Now you should be able to walk around inside of your model, and even though the light doesn't look too bad, we're going to adjust it and make it look better. And the way we're going to do that is by first baking the light map into our model, where we first need to make sure that the volume we're baking our shadow details inside, which is the light mass importance volume, completely covers our model. And once we're sure it does that, we're going to the build options, and under lighting quality we're going to select high or medium. I'll just select high, but of course the higher the quality, the longer your lighting will take to bake and be finished. And once you've done that, simply click build, and you should see it should start to clean up your model. And in your taskbar you might be getting a little icon that looks like this, called Swarm Agent, and this is basically the engine that is going to be baking your textures and your lighting details. And it can probably take a few minutes, maybe up to several hours, depending on the size of your level. Yeah, once your lighting has been fully baked and transferred into your engine, loaded, you should be able to see that it has become quite a lot darker, because the lighting has been realistically baked into your scene, but it didn't exactly become any more pleasant to watch. And it's because of the difference between light and shadow, which we're going to adjust through the help of the second volume I mentioned, which is the post-process volume. And what that does is that it basically covers everything related to your shaders that is put on in your view afterwards. So if you select your post-process volume and scroll down to your settings on the post-process, there's a few things we want to adjust. First of all, we want to adjust our auto exposure, which is a setting that covers virtual eye adaptations for dark and light environments. And here I'm basically just going to tick on all the settings and start off by setting this one to 95, this one to 0, and you can already see it's beginning to become a little brighter already. Set this one to 1.5, no, so 1.5, set this one to 2, set this one to 1.5, set this one to -10, and set this one to 8. Now it became a whole lot brighter, but you immediately notice that the outside light is creating this sort of bloomy glow, which is exactly why we want to go to the bloom settings And the only thing you want to adjust here is the intensity, which in my case will be set to 0.3, which looks quite fine. Then we're going to adjust the ambient occlusion, where I'll be adjusting the intensity and the radius. Yeah, and for this one I'm going to set it to 1, so we don't have any light leaking or what looks like light leaking in the edges. And then we are going to set the radius to, let's just try set it to, I guess this 80 seems fine enough. Then finally we have the set scene color and the white balance. If we go to the scene color, we want to take on the fringe intensity, which is basically the equivalent of chromatic aberration for cameras. This one I will be setting to 0.2. You can just have a slight idea of some distortion. And for the vignette, I'm going to set this one to 0.2. You can see the effect of it. And finally, for the white balance, I'm going to set it to around 9500, just to get that warm feeling to it. And yeah. Now, if you're satisfied with your model and how everything looks from both the inside and the outside, you're going to package your visualization into an executable. And the way you do that is by going to File, Package Project, and if you're going to present on Windows, of course select Windows, and in my case I'll be selecting 64-bit. And you notice it'll be packaging, and select a folder, and it'll begin packaging for Windows. And yeah, this can take a few minutes depending on your settings, on your size of level, on your details. So yeah, just wait for it to finish, and it should immediately be compiled into your project folder. Now, once your project has been successfully packaged and compiled, you can find it in your designated folder as Windows No Editor. You can simply rename it as Rhino Example Unreal and start it up by double-clicking on the executable file. Now, this folder is also a folder you can zip it into an archive. Just send it to your clients as you wish, and it should start up by now. Yeah, yes, and there you have it. You have your fully functional walkthrough demo where you can present your material to clients and show it off as you wish. And yeah, that concludes the tutorial. Thanks for watching.